Welcome to Dan the Road Trip Guy. I'm your host, Dan, and each week we'll embark on a new adventure, discovering memory and life lessons of our incredible guests. From everyday travelers to thrill seekers and everyone in between, this podcast is your front row seat to inspiring stories of passion, resilience, and the pursuit of happiness. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. My guest today is Philip Peters. Philip is from Franklin, Tennessee, and he's been involved in the, we'll say, entertainment industry for 20 plus years. I met him through Indy car driver Stingray Robb last fall when I was connecting with Stingray, and turns out Philip was Stingray's PR person last year. I finished that interview, and later on, Philip and I caught up and learned that we had both been involved in organizations in Haiti. He started one there in the early 2000s. Linda and I just happened to be on a trip down to Nashville, so we made a drive on down to Franklin, Tennessee. We sat with Philip for a little bit and just caught up, and I'm just really excited to talk to him about his journey in the industry he's been in for the past 20 plus years. Well, welcome to the show, Philip.
Nice to be here. Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. We met in person, as I said in the intro, back in November. But I have to say, you're one of those people that I've known you for years. You just give off that kind of personality.
Huge compliment. Thank you. That's a goal. I guess we met before, but we could say we met at the Grand Ole Opry. So that's kind of a fun place to meet up.
Yeah, for sure. And a first for Linda and I. So thank you.
Yeah, great.
So for my listeners who don't know you, take a minute or two and just tell my listeners, who is Philip Peters?
All right. Well, I am born and raised in Indiana, an Indiana boy, and I have lived actually more life now in Franklin, Tennessee, specifically, where I have worked in the music industry for 22 years, and I've dabbled my hands in a lot of other stuff, but that's where I've primarily landed. Married for almost 10 years, have a 7-year-old kid. I just enjoy life. I enjoyed listening to your podcast and hearing about all the different people that are on there and the concept. So grateful to be on. Yeah.
Glad you're here. We'll jump into a lot of that life here shortly, but I like to kick things off with, what was your first car?
Yeah, first car. I'll give my first car that I actually purchased going into college. Like, we had a car that us kids used and that kind of thing. But sure. I bought a car, which is a fun story. It was a 90 Celica. It was a silver one. Very, very dark, probably illegal windows, had the flip light, had the moon roof. It was a manual, the 5-speed, and that's the important part of the story, because I loved how cool the car looked, but I wasn't proficient on driving a manual, and it drove my mom crazy. Why would you buy a car that you can't drive? But my dad totally got it. We live on a farm and had big lanes, learned how to drive up and down the lane. By the time it was had it all summer, and by the time I was to go to college, I knew how to drive it. That was the car that the guys on the floor were like, "I'm going on a date. Can I borrow your car?" Which obviously made me feel good. And then a lot of first kisses were in that car by them. Probably not me, but yeah. So that was, maybe a good thing to hear. I don't know. So that was fun. So yeah, that was my first car, and I had it for several years. I mean, it was great. It was one of those, the air conditioner went out, and so I didn't put money into it and needed to get a little better at it. But yeah, love that. And I have another car story. Like, I bought a Jeep, a 95 Jeep Wrangler.
Okay.
In my 20s. I had 2 cars. That was just kind of like the summer car, take the top off, drive with friends. It was so much fun. Like, sure. We just had a blast. I remember with my parents one time we were driving, and Dad was in the back, and he was like, "We are going to get poured on." And you could just see this summer storm just pop up, and we were just drenched, but it was 90 degrees. It was so much fun. But it was one of those, I had wanted it for a while. And I actually, in the music industry, I love Michael Jackson. I got tickets to his concert. Well, when he died, I sold a couple of those tickets for collectors. And the Jeep's name was Jackson, in honor of Michael Jackson. And yeah, that was the Jeep that I had. But when I went to buy, or I didn't go to buy, I was like, I want a Wrangler, save up some money. So I put a bid on eBay, went to a graduation party, and came back, and I had won, and it was in Pennsylvania. I had no idea what I was going to do. Well, I was like, oh, I don't have the money. You can't drive a 95. You could, but it would be a very rough ride. But I got it here and shipped it here, and I got in it. It started, and it was, oh my gosh, it was a blast. Like, so many memories. But I bought a house about 5 years after I had it, and it didn't have a garage, and the squirrels kept eating the fuel line. So after the third time, I was like, all right, I'm getting good at working on this Jeep, but I'm getting tired of the fuel line. So I had to make a decision as to where it needed to go. I even heard to put mothballs on the back to see if it would scare me away, and it didn't. I put the mothballs in like one of my roommates' room just for fun. He was traveling. Yeah. He came home one time to change his shirt because he had to go to a gig, and so here comes the drummer in a new shirt, and he smells like Meemaw at the gig. But he was upset, and it was a great joke. But anyways, had to sold the college car after working here for a couple years, and then had the Jeep until I had the car. I got the house, but definitely miss it. Thought about the four-door Wrangler, but anyway, just not as cool as the rugged ones.
Good stories. Well, you've obviously traveled a lot. You and I talked about it in the music industry. Any epic road trips, even growing up, that just stick out in your mind?
Yeah, we didn't travel a lot growing up. Dad didn't like to travel, so it was fine. We were in Virginia. We had family out there, so we'd go out there. Florida a couple times, which if you're from Indiana, that's a haul. But yeah, until I started coming down here and got older and got my job, then it was the road trips happened. And, we'll talk about, I have a ministry in Haiti, so there's a road trip every time every time you go down there, that's a road trip. I am kind of, though, I don't know if this is going to get me kicked off your podcast. I'm kind of an A-B kind of a road trip guy.
Okay.
Like, hey, let's go from point A to point B. Let's get to the closest restaurant or whatever, gas station, put the food in the car and keep going. But I will say I'm a lot of fun, meaning like we have fun, do games. I have a playlist that is so fun. People who say they never sing in the car, they'll be singing, the most ridiculous guilty pleasure. And so I'm fun to be on a road trip with, guarantee.
Yeah, there you go.
And then working in the music industry, we travel around the world in a bus, which I don't know if you could say that's a road trip, because typically what that looks like is we leave a city around midnight, 1 a.m. You've got bunks that you sleep in, and you wake up and you're, sitting outside in a parking lot or underneath an arena somewhere. But there's definitely some stories. I remember one time we were actually coming to Cincinnati, near where you live, to do a show from Pennsylvania. And it was, 1:32 in the morning or 2:30. We were asleep, and the bus driver said he smelled smoke. And so you get your stuff and you're off of there. I think it was a battery situation, but a lot of travel and a lot of stories for sure.
Yeah, sounds like yours are more about the destination rather than the journey.
It is. I'm learning with my wife to slow down and let's just take it in. But yeah, I'm not somebody that last year I drove with Stingray to Detroit in my car, and he found like this Mexican restaurant 10, 12 miles off the interstate. I was like, why would you do that? It wasn't even good. Mexican. Anyway.
Right.
Anyway, see, that's why I never veer off the street.
That's right. Yeah. So you grew up in Indiana and somehow ended up in Franklin, Tennessee. Take us on that journey.
I always loved music all my life. So where I'm from, Greensburg, had about 10,000 people in it. To say you love music and you want to work in the music industry. I play music, but I never wanted to be on stage and do that kind of thing. Always liked the business side, being around the music. My mom side of the family, her father's very musical, her brother's very musical, wrote songs, country, toured with country artists. My dad loved music, wasn't musical, but always had the music on. 70s rock all the time, in the car, in the truck, in the tractor, in the shed, so there was always surrounded by music, and he knew music. Like, he knew who put this album out and what year, and the name of the album and of the song and that kind of stuff. So that kind of got it around it. But living where we lived right off the interstate, we were about an hour from Cincinnati and Indianapolis. So we were able to get to a bunch of shows as well, which Mom and Dad loved shows. And we saw a lot of concerts, which starting in the music industry side, I loved the live aspect of it. Now I'm in a bigger picture I do, the album side and the marketing and the live portion, but I'm not on the road specifically. But that was kind of what drew me to the industry. And I went to a university. Anderson University is in Indiana, which has Christian music. Gaithers were from there, Sandy Patty, Stephen Curtis. And so in the 90s, they were having shows all the time. I worked at the auditorium with them, or we had shows in. I would load gear, run spotlight, just do whatever. That experience is what, when they were looking for work, they were like, wow, this guy has done a lot. He knew all the key players. And so I think that's why they hired me.
Wow. Is there one of those shows from your younger years with your parents that's just memorable to you that you remember, one of those concerts?
I grew up as DC Talk is a band that I loved so much. And Toby Mac is a solo artist that I work for. He started DC Talk. And so we were able to go, and before I could drive, Mom and Dad took us to near your neck of the woods, Kings Island, where they did a concert. We were able to see them live there. And that was obviously great when the whole family was there and you kind of experience it and that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Well, we met up with you at the Grand Ole Opry. Did your parents listen to the Opry?
You know what? Not really.
Okay.
Not big country fans. Now, my mom, her brother was a big country artist. He played country music and toured, and he's got pictures with all the greats and stuff like that. So he definitely would lean that way. But no, they never were. They were more of a rock kind of a family.
If you look at your career, most people probably look at it and go, wow, what a fun career working with this music industry.
My brother always says I haven't worked a day in my life. And he's right.
If you find something you love, you don't, right? Is there, after all this, 20 plus years, is there a memorable experience that just stands out in your mind?
Yeah, I've kind of feel like I got to the point, and I was like, I asked a couple people before, or I text somebody, I was like, do I sound like I'm bragging? Because I'm not. Like, I just, God's blessed me so much, and I feel like I have a story. Like, I've kind of reached that part where I'm like, I hope people don't feel like I'm bragging, because I feel like every time I could tell a story about different things.
Sure.
I could go from, a month into here, I'm working for my favorite band, and I'm on a tour bus for the first time, just blown away by that. I've been able to go to the Grammys a few times, which was great. I've seen multiple countries, which is amazing. We had an artist, Mandisa, who was on American Idol, which was great to do that and be on the show, like in the crowd. I wasn't on the show. Private jets, first class, like that kind of stuff was just so fun. I think one of the biggest, though, is I was able to, before he passed, and it was one of his last few, is be a part in the back with an artist that was playing the Billy Graham Crusades. So we did one in Oklahoma City, and then Arrowhead Stadium there at the Chiefs, where the Chiefs play there in Kansas City. So that was pretty amazing. And I think, I always think of things like, I never met my grandma on my mother's side. She passed before I was born, but she listened to Billy. So it was kind of one of those things, like there's just this invisible connection that we had at that moment. And he was known worldwide. So to be there, I kind of almost feel like out of all the celebrities I've met, he wouldn't want to be called a celebrity, but he's one of them well known.
Exactly. Great memory.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I met you last year on the phone, really, when I had emailed to interview Stingray Robb, IndyCar driver, and turns out you were the PR guy. And I kept seeing you all last year in pictures. I'm like, who is that guy? Where did he come from? And so
that's that guy that's had that great hair.
Yeah, wow. Exactly. And so then we met you in person in November while we were down in Franklin. Of course, you're from Indiana, so you know racing well because it is the great state of Indiana and the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, definitely.
And so you were with Stingray in 2024.
Yep.
Is there a memory from that experience just sticks out in your mind?
I think what I would say is, as I was able to shake down the 20 years of the music industry and capture one, it's still too close for me to shake down a Stingray one. Like, right. I mean, obviously the 500 is great, but I was able to what a great family. He's just the most incredible human. I tell everybody, but I was able to hang with him for, all but two of the races, I think. So hang mean roommates, ride, and that kind of stuff. So to experience and see what they do and go through and, any of the behind the scenes stuff. That's what a lot of people say in the music industry. Like, I just want to come hang with you, see what happens behind the scenes. So that's kind of what I got to do last year. But yeah, I mean, there was so much fun stuff. There's some unspoken stuff
sure.
that I won't share.
Yeah.
Some rowdy things. Yeah, it was great. I mean, I think being, my dad and his brother went to the 500, in the 60s for the first time. And I have a cousin who's gone to 50 some. Last year, Stingray and Kimmy, his mom, were like, we're going to have you, go for a few days in the RV and before the 500. So it was kind of that moment where I woke up in the middle of the 500 that was going to happen in a few hours. And I was like, this is crazy. And it was almost one of those things where I said, this is actually a bucket list that wasn't a bucket list. I just checked off something that I need to go rewrite on my list because that was kind of a fun experience. But just to be that close, to go from somebody that you're chatting with that then gets in a car and then drives crazy and then gets out of the car and starts chatting. Like, it's just funny to me. And I always say that, like, with the artists too, like, hey, we're just chatting. They go up and play in front of 10,000 people and then they get off and then we start talking life again. Like it's a definite, like, I don't know. It's a real life moment. Yeah, I hope that answers the question.
No, it does. Very cool. And you mentioned bucket list, Indy 500. And I tell everybody, whether they're a race fan or not, you need to experience the Indianapolis 500 at least once. Just go and enjoy it because there is no way anybody can describe that. Yeah, for sure. You mentioned early on Haiti, road trip in Haiti. And a 5-mile drive in Haiti can feel like a long road trip. Tell us a little bit about Haiti and how you got involved there. I got involved with Restore Haiti. I founded it really I was a few years into a job here and very much happy, but almost not happy. I talked to some friends and we're kind of in the same place. Like, what's this? We're hitting 25, 26 and we're like, okay, is this life now? And so I knew a pastor who I met when I was 17 and we stayed in touch and he said, you should come visit. I went down at 25 in 2005. We were actually celebrating our 20th year and a group of 6 of us went. And when we went down, we were like, wow, I think we could help. Like, we don't have a lot, but a guy that really sparked it. There was a couple guys my age and when we worked, they wore the same clothes as when we hung out, as when they went to church. And I was like, all right, I don't have a lot of money. I don't know a lot of people that have money yet, but I do have a lot of clothes and shoes that I don't always wear. 6 months later, 12 of us went back, took a bunch of clothes, and it just started to spiral from there. And we just networked. And so we feed kids, send them to school, and then we have a medical clinic to help with medical stuff. And then right now, we're very community focused. We're sticking with them. So if someone dies, we find money to help bury them. If someone's getting married, we help with their wedding. And then we have a lot of job placement from some in the States and Canada and many with other nonprofits down in Haiti as well, serving as translators and stuff. It's been a fun adventure. I always tell people, because I'm not, 99% of the plates in Haiti are made with onions, and I hate onions. So I'm a horrible missionary. I really, really am. But, there's a scripture in the Bible that just talks about just opening a door, just being a doorkeeper in God's kingdom. And I was like, you know what? I think that's what I am. If all I do is just open a door so other people could walk through it and do what they are called to do, then I'm so happy just to stand there and be a greeter. So anyway, I guess in a few years, you'll see me greeting at Walmart if they still have those positions. If it's not been replaced by AI, I don't know. No, it can't replace relationships.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, do you come alongside the families there, or do you actually house like the people you serve? Are they living in houses?
We come alongside them. So we build homes. If we need homes, we find people to, if their house needs repaired, all those things. So I tell people a lot of times, you were a kid and you kind of played town where you had a bank and you had a hospital and that kind of stuff. Like, that's kind of, we're just kind of playing town and we're helping out. But man, after 20 years, they get it. We have WhatsApp and Zoom and all that. They're running the socials now. They're taking care, getting the information, and it's just been amazing. The report's been amazing. So all the time I tell people, Haiti is, you hear so much about Haiti that's not good, but our community is great.
Wow.
There's some very smart and great people. And I know you have ties down there too, so all of it.
Yeah, we do, and it sounds very similar. And so, yeah, we're very, very thankful for your work there and hope to continue to do that.
Yeah.
Life can be a little bit like a road trip, and there can be some detours and potholes and speed bumps and curves and dead ends.
Yep.
Has there been any obstacles in your life that you just felt like, wow, what am I doing?
I think the biggest obstacle has always been my mind or the lies or the struggle of somebody else is doing this or they're doing this more or they're getting an advance here or it didn't happen for you. When it's like, no, this is the journey that you're on and it's okay. You're going to get where you need to get. You have to look back and be like, you know what? I'm actually okay with this car. Why am I talking that I don't like this car? Where did that come from? Just because so-and-so got a new car or got a different job or whatever. I'm somebody who definitely struggles with the lies of like, man, I want something greater. And it's hard in this town here because we're dreamers and we're creators and we're, a lot of what happens in Nashville, Franklin is seen by the world. So it's very much, are you good enough and are you doing well and what's next for you? Instead of just walking in a room, like I just want to walk in a room and just be Philip and not be like, he works for so-and-so and he has this nonprofit and he did racing this past year and this, and this, and this. It's like, man, no, this is just, like you said, you're just going to like sitting down and talking to Philip. That's what I want the takeaway to be. And a lot of times it's like, oh, this guy's doing this and I should have done that.
Well, I remember when we sat down to talk with you, you were kind of like, oh, I got to have 30 minutes and I got to get going. And I think it was about 50 minutes later. And I think I kept looking at my phone worried that you were going to be late to wherever it was you're going. And my wife said that too. You were just so easy we'd never met you. We just sat down and began a conversation.
Well, how does that turn into a job? I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Maybe somebody listening to this.
You're good conversations too. We had so much in common.
Well, this podcast has helped me a little bit because I'm an introvert by one of my podcasts. The title was, the guest walked out and he said, I'm an introvert. And I said, oh, so am I. And we titled it, Two Introverts in a Car Take a Drive.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Talking about cars, we got the good old rear view mirror of life up there. As you've looked back on your life, which you're still young. When you get to be my age, you look back a little bit further sometimes. Is there anything you look back on and go, I wish I'd have done that a little bit different?
I actually spend a lot of time looking back. I do that to just reflect on how good life has been. And so I also feel like what that's kind of conditioned me to do is to make sure I'm not going to regret. And like I said, my dad just passed in December and all of us kids had talked as he declined for over a year, we were just like, are you good with dad? Have you talked to dad? And my wife and I, every time we would leave Indiana, have you gone up enough? We just would constantly process, those things. So there's not a lot of regret. I was thinking about that question and I think some of it is I got married a little later in life and maybe it was my fault. Maybe I would have enjoyed getting married earlier, but life is great now. And so it might have not been a good marriage at 23 years old or 4 years old. I don't know. Maybe that's the only rear view moment that I have. But, for the most part, I guess I suggest for people to don't live in a rear view to live in regret, but look in to be like, all right, let's look in the rear view often, kind of like you do in the car. Yep. Hey, let's just constantly assess where you're at. Hey, was I a jerk to someone today? Was I nice to someone today? Was I this or that? And so you can make that turn quicker versus being a year down the road and being like, gosh, I really blew it.
That's great advice for how to look through the rear view mirror. Opposite of the rearview mirror is the windshield.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? You've told me there's some changes coming. Can you share any of that?
Yeah. There are changes, but I honestly don't know what.
Okay.
So we made some decisions I'm not jumping on yet with racing. I hope that returns because it was so much fun.
Sure.
I'm a part of the board with Restore Haiti and I'm kind of the spokesman because I've been a part of it for so long, but I'm not completely there, in terms of the day-to-day stuff. And then I've made a decision to, in a couple months, I'm stepping away from 22 years with True Artist and Toby Mac, which is kind of a surprise, but not. I just feel like it was a time where we're ready for chapter 2. My wife felt that as well, which is interesting because I don't have anything lined up. So if anyone's interested, I'm game. Like I said, I love Kings Island there in Cincinnati, so maybe I can run a roller coaster. I don't know. We're not looking to move, but I just like to have fun with anything. And so I think something will pop up. I hope so. I'm not really worried yet, but maybe, in a couple of weeks I'll be sweating. How are we going to eat? But I don't know. I've said I've been able to connect a lot of people, introduce a lot of people, and network for people that I've not really done it for myself. And so I'm learning to kind of, and again, not in a way of being arrogant and I did this and that. I have to learn that because you have to kind of sell your strengths to people. But I'm just kind of in a season of telling people, hey, I'm looking to transition out of a current job and I'm available. What's out there? What do we got? That is the windshield.
Yeah.
I tell people right now, like I've used the analogy of being in a wilderness, and in scripture, a wilderness is a real place and also a hypothetical place, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word, but a wilderness is a place where they went to just prepare. It's not a punishment place. I'm not in a valley right now, but I'm kind of in a place, if I'm being honest, like I'm getting lonely. Social on purpose. Social media, I've taken off my phone. I try not to watch it much. I'm trying not to connect with as many people right now. I'm reading. I really want to, there's a place in Kentucky, that monastery that's a quiet retreat that I'm looking at some dates to just go to and just kind of really for the first time, like be in a wilderness and prepare for what is next. And it's hard to do when there's so much noise, and good noise, not like I don't feel addicted to this or always hanging out with people, but just a moment of like, all right, let's really prepare for chapter 2 and let's see what needs to be there and let's do it well. So,
well, we wish you well with that, and we'll look forward to what that looks like.
Yeah, thank you.
If you could take a road trip with anyone today, living or deceased, who would it be? Where would you go? What would you talk about?
I like people. Like, I just love people and I love friends. And like I said, with my dad passing, like the amount of love that I have felt, that's my advice. Just be kind to people and be friends. What's that line in It's a Wonderful Life? No one's a failure who has friends. Like, and I'm so blessed. Like, I have friends and I'm friendly to people and I just love people. And I love everyone who's unique and weird. And, like it's just, I just let people be people. So I would probably say I would want a big bus and I want to just go down to the beach and hang. Those are always my fun moments, is when it's just a lot of hang.
Yeah.
I loved throwing parties in my 20s and we still kind of do occasionally. And
yeah, great answer. Load
okay,
up,
good.
Got the tour bus, load up the tour bus, and here we go.
I mean, I can't pick. There's too many people out here. I'll just say, if you're listening to this podcast, you'd be on the bus.
Yeah. Great.
If you didn't make it this far, then you're off the bus.
That's great. Love for you to leave some life advice. And you just left a little bit, but you have anything else you want to leave my listeners with on how to live a great life?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, going through my dad's end of life, like nothing else matters but your family and your people around you. It really doesn't, not what you own, not the status, not the title behind your name. I know that sounds so cliche, but I literally am like, I'm not doing this, but I'm still going to be a friend. And I'm not going to be working hard over here, but I'm still in your life. And I'm not going to, like, I'm still here for you and you're here for me. And that's what matters.
Sure.
I actually said that at my dad's memorial, and I didn't mean to be mean, but I also hope people came away from it and we live in a world where we can be so connected, but we are so disconnected. Find that person to text and just reach out. And if they don't reach out 3, 4, 5, 10 times, still reach out. You know, like, we are created to love. And if we're not loving, like, what's the point? That's my thing, man. People are number one in my book. And again, I think that's the key. And I love it, and that's kind of my advice in life, because if you know people, it's a good thing, and I know we could dive into the whole introvert thing, but I definitely know introverts have their people and they have their way of connecting too.
We do.
So.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, Philip, this has been so much fun. After I met you in November, Linda kind of looked at me and said, you got to get Philip on your podcast. And I'm like, yeah, I was thinking the same thing. So this has just been a blast for me.
And you know what's crazy? You're my very first podcast.
Well, hey, there.
I've never been a guest.
Yeah.
I know.
That may just all change tomorrow,
Yeah. No, I'm probably still not going to be counted. My wife and her sister had a podcast.
That's right.
Years.
Yeah, I listened to it.
Culture. Yes. Steel Magnolia. It's wonderful. I was never a guest. They were looking for their numbers to grow. And I was like, are you sitting right here?
Yeah, right here.
Invited.
Yeah, I know people.
Yeah, I can talk about fried chicken.
Well, hey, I look forward to seeing you. But before we leave, it's how to find the organization in Haiti. Maybe it's how to find you. Whatever you want to leave us with.
Absolutely. I have some fun. I love to share about my life and things that are going on. Instagram is Philip with one L, PHILIPEP. So you could follow there. I don't have a website or anything, but I like to put up stories. And we work with an artist, Sean Dietrich. He's fun, Sean of the South. And so there's stuff up there. If I'm on tour, Toby Mac, I throw that up there. Any random stuff at the racetrack would be up there. Yeah. Fun stuff around the house are there. I work in digital marketing, Wander Creative. So you can learn about that or restorehaiti.com.
All right. Well, thank you again, Philip, so much.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you for tuning in to Dan, the Road Trip Guy. I hope you enjoyed our journey today and the stories that were shared. If you have any thoughts or questions or stories of your own, I'd love to hear from you. Feel free to reach out to me anytime. Don't forget to share this podcast with your friends and family and help us to spread the joy of road trips and great conversations. Until next time, keep driving, keep exploring, and keep having those amazing conversations. Safe travels. And remember, you can find me on the internet at dantheroadtripguy.com.